Today's video was brought to you by Ewin Racing, the best source for gaming chairs and desks for those long gaming sessions. We have a playlist of our Ewin chair and desk videos linked in the video description below. Save 30% off of everything using the discount code TECHDEALS. More details at the end of the video.
That's a lot of numbers.
Why don't you read this for me, my love?
This is everything.
Hold on a second. 41 minutes timestamp. This needs to be a Byte Size Tech.
Do you want me to just include it in the...
No, this should be its own. And the title of this is Everything Wrong with Using FPS to Benchmark CPUs, because it's a joke.
Okay. All right. You got that, Junior?
Benchmarks and frame rates are a very commonly used tool to compare various bits of hardware. If you want to compare a RX 6600 XT to a 6700 XT to a 6800 XT to a 6900 XT, average and 1% low frame rates are absolutely a valid and wonderful way to compare those. If you want to compare a RTX 3060 to a 66 or 6700 XT, if you want to compare a 3080 Ti to a 6800 XT, average frame rate charts and 1% lows, absolutely 100% all day long on the same platform, that's a good choice. The problem is if you're testing CPUs. Graphics cards and CPUs are two very different things, and they do different things in your computer. And I've got a chart here I want to show you guys that demonstrates why using average frame rates is kind of worthless
For CPUs.
for CPU testing. If you're trying to figure out which CPU you need to buy, stop looking at frame rate numbers. It is an awful representation of what the CPUs can do. And I've got this that I tweeted out here. Why don't you read this, my love?
This is everything wrong using FPS to benchmark CPUs. 1080p at 60 frames a second, clearly you only need a dual-core Pentium G5400, all right? Yeah, that would be dumb, but that's what the chart says.
Now, this chart can be hard to read with this very tiny print, but if you look down at the bottom, you'll see the Pentium G5400 does 67 frames per second, average 1080p, and this is across Tom's Hardware entire test suite. This is all their games, all their tests at 1080p using, now, they're using an RTX 3090 for CPU testing, which makes sense. I understand why. No, nobody's putting a 3090 on a Pentium G, but because they're also testing Ryzen 9 5900Xs, they have to use one graphics card across the entire range of CPUs. I understand why they are doing it. Now, of course the frame rate goes up as the CPU goes up, to be sure. Yes, some of the games are definitely going to run slower. But the idea that anybody would buy a 2-core 4-thread chip in 2021 to get 1080p 60 frames per second is it's so dumb, it demonstrates, in my view, why average frame rate charts probably shouldn't be used to test CPUs. Even though we all seem to do it. Mostly probably because we lack better tools to do it. And let's see if I can do this. There we go. Now the image isn't huge. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up full screen now. I zoomed it in. So as you can see here, it goes up as you improve the CPU. A i3-8100, which is a 4-core 4-thread chip, 89 frames per second. You'd say, wait a minute, Tech, what are you talking about? 89 is way faster than 67. See, clearly it does a good job. Well, yeah, it does. But that also sort of misses the point, which is neither of those are going to be a very good experience in 2021 on modern games. Oh, sure, League of Legends, CSGO, Dota 2, yeah, fine. Okay, you know, a 2-core or 4-core chip is fine. Call of Duty Modern Warfare multiplayer, Battlefield 2042 multiplayer, Cyberpunk 2077. Seriously, those are just going to be a joke on those CPUs. They're going to be awful. even though the average frame rates might not be that bad, because You're just doing short tests to test the graphics card, basically. Essentially, these CPUs are holding back the graphics card, but they're not demonstrating that you've got good overall performance. Now, what's interesting about this is I also posted the 1440p numbers. And this is the entire test suite at 1440p. How many of you? They actually got more on the G5400, 71 average frames per second, 1440p on a 3090. There's some other things in here which are equally ridiculous. For example, if we come up here, we will find the Ryzen 7 2700X is beaten by the i3 10100. The i3 10100 is a 4-core, 8-thread chip. The 2700X is an 8-core, 16-thread chip. Now, the i3 10100 has a higher per-core clock speed. It's the IPC, the individual cores are faster. And in game benchmarks, where you're either playing a replay file, which a lot of people do,
They do.
or they're using games built-in benchmarks, they're not actually testing the game, they're just testing a graphics engine. And so the 4-core chip will run faster. Raise your hand or leave a comment if you would trade your 8-core 2700X for a 4-core i3. It's faster in the benchmark chart at 1440p, no less. It demonstrates why these are kind of messed up. If you go further up the chart, they've also got, for example, the i9, here it is, the i9 9900K. Rogue, would you agree that the i9 9900K is a beast of a CPU?
It's very good.
It's an excellent CPU. It's fast. It's responsive. 8 cores, 16 threads, up to 5 gigahertz, 4.7 all-core turbo. Great CPU. Been out for a couple of years, but man, I mean, that's just a good CPU. Look at 133 frames per second. Who wants to trade one of those in on a locked 4 gigahertz i5 11400 6-core chip that they've got at 133? They've got that at 139. So the 11th gen locked i5 11400 beats the i9 9900K.
That's just one number.
There is no circumstance in which you would ever, if I offered everybody watching this video, I said, look, pretend like everybody watching this video had no computer. And in this hand, I have an i9 9900K with an appropriate motherboard, cooler, and everything else. And in this hand, I have a locked i5 11400 4 gigahertz 6-core chip. And I said, look, you could take they're free. You could take whichever one you want. Same price. Which one would you rather have? No one with any sense would ever take the i5. But a benchmark's better. And I know some people would say, well, if you already have the i9, you would make the switch. Yeah, but if you don't have either one of them, you'd still take the i9. And if you wouldn't, then you haven't used both. You would take the i9. So the challenge is, what do we use to test CPUs if frame rate isn't it?
That was going to be my question.
There are synthetic tests that can be done. I don't like Cinebench. Cinebench is kind of a weird test that just, it favors CPUs with large cache, part of the reason why it favors AMD chips. CPU-Z's built-in bench is actually better in some regards. There's other tests that can be run that are more in-depth. You really need CPU tests, not graphics card tests. And most game benchmarks are graphics card tests, or they're IPC tests. Because if you take, for example, Call of Duty Modern Warfare multiplayer, if you actually play the game, you have much higher CPU usage because you're interacting with the server. There's collision detection, hit detection with the bullets. There's a lot of background calculations going on that stresses your CPU. If you play a battle and you save there's a replay file system in most of those games, and you save the replay file. And of course, for this kind of testing, I know a lot of benchmarkers out there will simply play the replay file because it generates the frames on the screen. I don't do that in my testing. All of my testing is live gameplay. Now, live gameplay multiplayer testing is not directly comparable because different map, different situations, different deaths, different shots, they're not exactly the same. On the other hand, the CPU usage testing is pretty good. When you run a replay file in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, there is no server communication. There is no collision detection.
Nope.
There is no hit detection. There is no stat collection. The game is not really running. It's simply drawing pretty images. It's perfectly fine to do that. Replay files are fine if you're comparing graphics cards. Not if you are comparing CPUs. If you want to demonstrate multiplayer gaming performance using CPUs as the test subject, you have to actually live play the game on a live server. And very few people do that. So, what do you want to add to all this?
No, I think you nailed it. You're using the wrong test for the job. And everyone's gotten so used to it that they don't really want to change.
User experience is different than frame rate.
Yep.
And just because you're playing games that don't necessarily benefit from a faster CPU, and I'm not even talking about all the cores. It doesn't even have to be an all the core argument. Going from a Zen 1 to a Zen 2 to a Zen 3 chip, even if it's 8 core to 8 core to 8 core, you played World of Warships, which is a free-to-play game designed to be playable on a wide variety of hardware.
Correct.
It's from a company called Wargaming that wants millions of people to play it, and so free-to-play games tend to be easily runnable on a wide variety of hardware. Mm-hmm. You have played that game on a Ryzen 7 1700X.
Correct.
And you've played that game on a Ryzen 7 3700X.
Correct.
Both 8-core, 16 threads.
Yep.
Both machines have 32 gigs of RAM. Both machines have the same graphics card. Mm-hmm. And since it's and that game is locked to 75 frames per second. There's actually a built-in limiter in the game, so it doesn't run faster than 75 frames per second. So that means clearly there is no reason to go, and it ran at 75 on both chips.
It did.
World of Warships will run at 75 frames per second on a 1700X, a 2700X, a 3700X, and a 5800X with an appropriate graphics card. So upgrading is a waste of money, right?
No.
But why?
Game update runs faster. Your load screens load faster. Moving around the game is faster.
Even clicking to the menus?
Clicking through the menus, much nicer user experience with more CPU.
But not even more cores in that case, faster cores.
Yeah.
And then we switched you temporarily to a Ryzen 5 3600X, which is basically 2 fewer cores than a 3700X. And you were fine with that, but even that change was noticeable.
Yep.
World of Warships, by the way, when you're playing the game, doesn't need 8 cores.
No.
It doesn't even use 6. It uses 3. It uses 3, maybe 4 cores.
But it's either end. Loading screen, result screen, and then moving around in the game.
But you have now been upgraded to an i9 10850K 10-core 20-thread chip.
Yep.
Is the frame rate changed?
No.
It's still stuck at 75 frames per second because that's the game's limit.
Correct.
Would you like to go back to your Ryzen 5? Is the computer nicer to use?
Yes.
Does that show up in any benchmark chart
Nope.
of frame rates?
Nope.
This is a challenge in this industry because this is a CPU comparison chart. This chart shows a ton of CPUs and a ton of different frame rates here. And yet, if you actually look at where the CPUs fall in this list, a lot of these make no sense. Lower core count chips that will benchmark better but be actually worse to use. So we need to stop using frame rates to measure CPUs.
User experience for the win. It's our new t-shirt.
I plan to alter the way I do CPU reviews going forward. I will include these kind of numbers because people want to see them. If I don't include them, people are going to say, well, what are you doing? Part of the reason I'm going to include them is I want people to know that I did sit down and actually play with it and use it. It's one of the reasons I do live gameplay testing. A lot of reviewers do not do live. They do replay files and built-in benchmarks. But live gameplay testing gives me the benefit that I actually sit down and I actually game on all of the machines. I have played Cyberpunk, The Division 2, Assassin's Creed on all of the CPUs I've tested. I do live gameplay tests, Fortnite, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I've now done those on basically all of the graphic cards and CPUs, and it lets me actually get hands-on time going, oh, that's what happens. And it's different than just run benchmark 3 times, get result, put it in a spreadsheet. When I do CPU reviews from now on, I'm going to include a section where I provide the subjective user experience. I'm going to kind of phrase it the way a car reviewer would do it. If you read Car and Driver magazine or Road and Track, or watch Doug DeMuro's videos on YouTube if you like, or actually Alex on Autos does really good car reviews. Doug DeMuro is a bit of a goofy, funny guy, and I like Doug, but if you want serious, legitimate, detailed reviews, they're kind of long. They're often 20 to 30 minutes long. Alex on Autos on YouTube does really good car reviews and does a lot of them. But he approaches it in a very level-headed manner. Part of his review is the facts and figures. He actually puts up on screen, like, for example, a total foot room and rear seat leg room, and he'll put up all the competitors' cars. So, like, if he's reviewing a Ford Explorer, it'll be Chevy Traverse, Hyundai Palisade, Kia this, Chevy that, and it'll have all of the amount of leg rooms on the side.
Right.
But then he actually made an interesting comment in a recent Hyundai video where he talked about, he goes, this has about 1 inch less legroom per the numbers than the Ford Explorer. However, Ford does something funny with the way they scoop their seats and the way the tilt is. And having now sat in both of them, this feels like it has more legroom than the number indicates. That is a subjective response. That is not a number to put on the screen.
Correct.
But once you've seen somebody who's actually driven all the cars, if he goes, the number says that, or sometimes like in the rear cargo space, one vehicle will have X number of cubic feet cargo space, but it'll say something like, but the rear wheel wells cut in and the way it's sculpted and shaped in the back don't actually give you as much useful space as this other car. So in CPU reviews, I want to talk about, okay, this benchmarks really well, but was it nice to use? Did Windows install fuss-free? Was everything snappy? And that is a very subjective. I may have to like put a section and actually label it,
User experience.
That's a good way of putting it. How often do you see tech reviewers do that?
You don't.
Let's put aside the specs and let's talk about actually using this.
My CPU is scooped. It is because you took a huge chunk out of it when you tasted it. Oh, Ian goes, taste test is how you test CPUs.
Oh, good Lord. Anyway, I kind of went on longer than I meant to, but I hope this is informative and useful to some of you to at least get you thinking about what's behind the numbers that you see and how does it affect what you'll actually get when you use it. And I think I'll leave it there. How long was that?
59:40.
When did we start?
Oh, that was probably about 20 minutes.
No way.
We've been on for an hour. Do you want to keep going with these, or do you want to pause on these and do a?
You can automate hands-on testing. You can't automate hands-on testing. That'd be like automating test driving cars. You have to be in it doing it. You have to have your hands on the keyboard. Do you know what the problem with automated testing doesn't show you? When you press the W key to move forward, and there's a tenth of a second lag before your character moves. That doesn't show up in that kind of testing. That's a human interactive experience, not a number. Anyway, carry on. I kind of went on for a while with that. I had a lot to say.
You go on. Oh, Rock says thank you. Just wanted some reassurance before the purchase. So
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Rock. Jackie C, thank you for the little. Is that a cup of coffee that says tired? Julian, thank you. He wants to know if we're going to benchmark single rank versus dual rank. He's got single channel RAM, but he's like single rank versus dual rank. We've done a Byte Size Tech on that, haven't we?
I don't remember. I have tested that. I never turned it into a video because that's right around the time XD left.
Oh.
Short answer, there's a difference. It's very minor and you need benchmarks to see it. The difference between single channel and dual channel and single ranked and dual ranked is minor. It's there. You can find it if you're looking for it. The more premium the machine you have, the more you should care. The difference is small enough that I wouldn't lose a lot of sleep over it. You know, my machine at home, my i9 9900K, I can't tell you if I have single rank or dual rank RAM in that.
You can't?
I mean, I know there's 2 sticks of RAM in there, so it's dual channel, but I don't know if they're single or dual rank, and I don't care. Because it's kind of like, it's like the difference between 3200 and 3600. If you're looking for a difference, you'll find it, but there isn't one that matters.
There you go. Tuna, thanks, mate. He goes, remember me? Of course we remember you. Upgraded from a 3930K, 6 cores, to a 10700K, 8 cores, and it said it made him go, wee! I just wanted to say thank you for all the advice. Well, you are welcome, Tina. I'm glad your computer is putting a smile on your dial.
He tweeted about that, actually, and replied to something I posted. I do remember you posting that. He goes, oh, no, he posted that on the Discord, and he said, oh my goodness, could I even find it? Probably not in a, let me try typing in 3930X. That might find it. That's what I meant.
Unless Ian's been there and then he's chewed the leg off it, which will turn it into a K.
Let's see here.
Did you find it? He's looking. A robot gamer to record latency. There you go. 42 minutes when you started, 59 minutes is when you ended. Okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah, there he is. Boy, it's a huge upgrade. Everything runs butter smooth.
Beaming Drive now runs smooth as butter with 12 AI cars, especially with Beaming I noticed. Map loaded much faster than before. Load times are just not about SSDs and hard drives. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that user experience, and that's what I can upload them now. Ooh.
I replied to one of those and said, I'm not crazy, am I? He actually replied and said, I believed you, but there's a difference between believing you and experiencing it for yourself. And the first time you do it, you're like, oh, that's what they meant.
And now he's got graphs that he can upload. So there you go.
Oh, you did post those, didn't you? Oh, where did you post those? You did. He posted 2 frame time graphs.
Did he? Frame time graphs? Imagine that.
Where did those get? Anyway. Search absolutely sucks on Discord.
Space Pool, yes, he's in Discord. He's not coming out of that for a while. Unless we see DeBale's girlfriend. I mean, no, excuse me. Chris, thanks.
We do have the Terminator channel.
You're proud of that, aren't you?
It wasn't even my idea.
Oh, really?
That's Chris's fault.
Oh, Chris.
Chris, Rogue blames you. She says you must be punished now. Ewin Racing has a wide selection of chairs to fit all shapes and sizes of gamers, ranging from petite to cuddly. They have something for every type of gamer. Not just sizes, but colors and material options as well, including red, blue, purple, pink, orange, and more, plus cloth and leather choices. We have over half a dozen chair and desk videos in a playlist down in the video description below. We also have a very special offer just for Tech Deals viewers. Save 30% off of everything using discount code TechDeals using our link in the video description. We have used Ewin gaming chairs for 3 years in our office, sitting on them for up to 8-hour marathon live streams. They are very comfortable, and we are happy to work with Ewin to bring you this special discount and recommend Ewin for all of your gaming chair and desk needs.